Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Axon Bulletin. It is Tuesday afternoon. It's another Tuesday after another Celtic victory. Patrick's 36 games unbeaten in the league under Ange Postecoglou. It's less than 10 days now to go until the Champions League draw. We've just found out the ticket price for anybody that's maybe not caught that news there. That's just come out. The package is £129 for season ticket holders, which I think works out at 43 quid a game. So if you're a season ticket holder, check that out. And it's all go in the transfer market. That is our ticker tape headline. We see the name there. Hakšabanović in, Jullien out. The Ange revolution continues. We'll get right into it with our ticker tape. First, please, if you're on the comments, get into them. Please fire in your questions. Anything else you want to maybe say, and we'll get them up. We'll be talking about transfers. I'm sure we'll touch on the game at the weekend against Hearts, and we'll look forward to the game at Tannadice next week. I'm sure we can also spend a bit of time on St Mirren with their 30 quid voluntary ticket scheme, and you might even want to touch on Robbie Nielsen's disappointment at Kevin Clancy's refereeing performance. If there's anything else we can get into, please do let us know in the comments. Patrick, Hakšabanović, let's go to him first. Update earlier on from Football Scotland, Mark Hendry, who tweeted just before 12 o'clock saying that he was in Glasgow. Celtic hope to tie the deal up this week, and he has been in London, I think the past week, round about the weekend, but things have moved very, very quickly. We heard what Ange said on Sunday. We know he doesn't usually talk about players. This one looks all but done, but we're always a wee bit worried to say anything too much before we see them in green and white hoops, as we've learned that lesson with David Turnbull before.
Yes, absolutely, and thankfully we got him over the line eventually. But you know, it's always a good sign when a manager's willing to address a player. When he's asked about him in the press, it obviously means there's something to it. The manager's obviously quite confident it will happen. Obviously, it's not done till it's done, as we've seen with David Turnbull. But you know, I'm just looking at what you've retweeted here. You know, I think he was in London. I think he came on either Sunday or Monday. He's in Glasgow now, and Celtic are turning their attention to get a Yeti out the door, which is just, it's all good news, really, isn't it? I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the player, not even seen the YouTube highlights, but you know, we seem to have got it wrapped up quite quickly. The team that he's at, he seemed to be gutted to be losing him, and you know, if Ange trusts him as a person and as a player, then you know, hopefully he's at least a promising signing, if not a first team starter.
Yeah, it was interesting at the weekend. I caught up with Daniel Kristofferson, who broke the story. He's a Swedish journalist based in Stockholm, and he gave me the kind of lowdown in Hakšabanović, and he spoke about this player that had came through the ranks in Sweden. Sweden were really disappointed that he chose to play for Montenegro over Sweden. He was born a Swedish player. He played right through, I think, up until under 21s for the national team, then opted for Montenegro. So that actually has changed the Swedish FA's approach to the way that they bring players through and the chances that they basically get. He's one of the guys that stopped that. He's had, I think, 3 different teams over in Sweden before he merited that move out to Kazan. He obviously got his big move to the Premier League, but he was too young at the time. I think he was only 19 or so when he moved to West Ham. Didn't really make a breakthrough there. I think he only made one competitive start for the Hammers. So yeah, he sees this as a deal that fits. He said he's a player that is hungry. He has a desire to get better. He wants to improve. He wants to play European football. And also, Patrick asked him about Jordan Larsson, who was a name that we'd spoken about on the podcast. And he actually said that he believes he's got more qualities than Jordan Larsson as a player, which I found really, really interesting. And he still thinks that he can develop. So it all sounds very good. And, you know, I want to kind of go back to Chris Sutton's article from the Record on Saturday, which I thought was really interesting. I like to read Big Chris's stuff. And he'd said that Celtic are no longer in the position where Brendan Rodgers was at in January 2019, where he says, you know, we've got 1 million wingers and we signed Mari and Shved. This signing also seems to me as if it's got a bit of succession planning in it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've probably got 3 wingers there now that we're rotating constantly. 3 wingers that are good enough to get in the team, and that obviously being Jota, Maeda, and Abada. And then, you know, in a sort of second level underneath that, you've got guys like Forrest who can come in, and then you get Mikey Johnston stuff as well. So, I mean, we've got plenty of wingers. It's just about their quality, and obviously succession planning. You know, Jota's probably someone we're looking to get a fee for. Maeda's, he's not too old, but he's not too young either. You know, he's not one of these promising youngsters. Abada, a bit of a promising youngster, but then there's always murmurs of us potentially selling him. I think Newcastle was the club a few months ago. So, if we can bring this player in and he can sort of break into the team this season, you know, you sort of dread it, but the day that Ange leaves, this is a guy who might still be here, who might be hitting top form just as Ange is walking out the door. So, yeah, you need to buy these guys, you need to buy these assets. They're, you know, next summer you can sell a player, bring two in. The following summer you can sell a player, bring two in, keep the model going. And, you know, if the Swedish journalist you spoke to thinks he could be that, then that's perfect for Celtic.
Yeah, Daniel Kristofferson was very complimentary of him, and he said basically when the interest came, he dropped everything and he wanted to move right away. So he's definitely keen on it, and hopefully we can get that one over the line. Just get into some of these comments here. Michael McDonald's came in to say a happy birthday to Sean Ryder, who is 60 today. He didn't think he would make it, and he's saying afternoon to both of us. Just to remind you, Michael, if you haven't already, A State of Mind do have an audience with the Happy Mondays man on the 18th of November at the Barras Art and Design place down the Barras down in Glasgow. So I think tickets are still on sale for that. So if you haven't already checked it out, please do. What's the reported fee is the question here. From everything I've read and from what I know, Patrick, I think we're going to get him on a bit of a cheap deal. I don't know if you read what Rubin Kazan's chief executive said last week, but I think the club are really struggling at this point in time due to all the sanctions placed upon them. They need the money, and Celtic aren't going to be paying anywhere near, I think, the €6 million that Rubin Kazan had paid for the player, and he was out at Djurgårdens on loan there. There was potential for him to go back to Djurgårdens, but you know, from everything that Daniel Kristofferson spoke to me about, that the player wanted to play Champions League football, and he believed that he was too good now for the Swedish League. So it's an interesting one to see. Brown Warrior, usual Tuesday contributors, came in here to say he seems very right-footed for a left-sided player. Apparently he can play across the front line, so plenty back up and attack if true. Patrick, that is going to be something that's going to be a real benefit. We know he can play on both sides of the wing and as an attacking midfielder. And just as I say that, Lawrence Conley joins us there. Lawrence, good afternoon. We're talking Sead Hakšabanović. Looks as if he's going to happen. Just talking there about his flexibility. He can play in both wings and an attacking midfielder. He seems very much in the Ange Postecoglou mould.
Yeah, listen, a bit of competition for Matt O'Reilly in that attacking role, isn't it? Attacking midfield. It's good to have options. It makes us flexible on the pitch, you know. And we're getting a decent price. Another player, I mean, Jens has looked good since he came in. You know, he didn't have a great season last season, but, you know, perhaps it's another player's career that Ange can improve, hopefully.
Yeah, and he's still young to improve him. 23 years of age, there's still plenty in the tank there. And also it could be one of these ones that he looks at Celtic as a possible stepping stone. Obviously, he's had that move to the Premier League. It's not worked out. He might want a bit of redemption, but we see the same story with Yusuke Adeguchi. But he'll come here and, you know, like all the other positions across the park, Patrick, we've got healthy competition in it, and it'll only further push guys like Daizen, Maeda, Jota and Abada, and possibly even Matt O'Reilly, as Lawrence touched on there. Yeah,
I mean, I think Ange said, you know, during the summer and early this season, you need to constantly keep moving, and that's why we brought. It's why we're bringing everyone to the club, really. You know, to constantly keep players, you know, on their toes, adapting. You know, the coaching staff is changing all the time, the squad's changing all the time. There's never really any nailed down positions. You know, we've seen a lot of the top players, Kyogo, Jota, you know, McGregor, Carter, Vickers. You've seen these guys keep their place in the team, but there's other guys who come in and out, and it just goes to show that no one's position is ever safe. You know, you need to keep on adapting, improving, and sticking with Ange's system if you want to keep your place in the Celtic team these days. And you know, Hakšabanović, he wants to come here to play Champions League football. You know, if you're being realistic, unless we get a really favourable draw, we're probably only going to be playing 6 games in the Champions League, and he's just coming in, you know, I think 2 weeks before the first match day, so he'll need to really hit the ground running if he wants to play, you know, 2 or 3 games, because, you know, Jota and Maeda, they've sort of made that position their own. I mean, they'll need to stay on their toes as well, but it looks hard to dislodge them now. You know, Abada looks a very promising player, and he's been kept out of the team. So competition for places is really, really high at the moment, and it's a great thing for Celtic, but it obviously poses a challenge for Hakšabanović.
Yeah, it does, and due to the fact he's not played a lot of football yet, I don't know what his pre-season's been like. I know he did return to, I think he's been in Sweden much like Jordan Larsson was before he got that move to Schalke, so he's probably been training himself, but it will take me a bit of time to get up to speed too, so, you know, probably not going to be anywhere near fit to play match day 1 in the Champions League, but we'll just wait and see in that one. But Lawrence, you know, with the Champions League, we've got the League Cup next Wednesday, our first game in that against Ross County. Celtic's going to be competing in 4 competitions, and it is imperative that we have a big squad to do that. And again, I think this guy just adds a real good bit of versatility to your team that you've maybe not got too much around the park. We know that maybe a guy like Maeda can play on the right hand side and go through the middle, but with Hakšabanović, you get a completely different prospect here.
Yeah, definitely need the flexibility. Be interested to see what he brings, how close he is to starting, you know, when he gets his minutes. What does it do for Jamesy Forrest? You know, he's probably further on the fringe with this signing, but yeah, it's welcome to get an attacking player. I thought we lacked a wee bit of a spark at the weekend, albeit we didn't get it first game, you know, that was really comfortable against Hearts, but we could have done just maybe a bit of freshen up, and we're talking about it post-match. Maybe O'Reilly does need a bit of competition for his attacking midfield position.
Yeah, but people think, you know, Tom Roderick, who I think's been linked most recently with a move to Everton, I wouldn't wish that in the poor soul. You know, since the pattern, maybe people say we've not replaced a player in that, even though O'Reilly looks like he's ready-made replacement, but obviously towards the end of that season we had a bit of depth in that position that you do have that. But it will be interesting, you know. I think James Forrest, Patrick, I know he's not been flavour of the month with yourself for a while now. Lawrence talks about him being in the fringes here. It probably does make him even more on the fringes with a guy like Hakšabanović coming in. I think he'll still get game time under Ange Postecoglou this season, but probably at the stage of career that he's at, he's not, you know, like Mikey Johnston where he's needing game time. He's probably quite happy. He's on that extended deal to just be a squad player and be part of the Celtic squad rather than be looking to probably get minutes in the park.
Yeah, I think he'll know himself, his position. I'm sure Ange would have made it clear to him, you know. Under Ange, he's never really been a starter. I don't think he started 3 or 4 games in a row. You know, he came off the bench twice and scored twice, you know, in that League Cup semi-final against St Johnstone. And then, oh no, that's wrong. He started Livingston away, didn't he? Aye, he scored the winner, aye. But Livingston in March.
And he got his
goal. Aye, because I thought he came on and scored, but he started. I'm sure he knows himself. You know, he's 31. You know, in comparison to 31, we've got 3 young wingers. And then you've obviously got Mikey Johnston coming through. So he knows that he'll be getting game time. He came on against Kilmarnock, of course. And, you know, he's played a lot of games for Celtic. He scored a lot of goals. And, yeah, he's got what he's wanted. He's got a 3-year deal. 3 years left in his deal. Probably on less money, but I'm sure, you know, it will still be a handsome wage. And, yeah, I mean, James Forrest will definitely get games. It's just the days of him starting regularly under Rodgers and Lennon, I think those days are gone. Yeah,
but listen, it's one to keep an eye on. You don't know what can happen with injuries and whatnot. He's still there. He's still a part of the squad. But Lawrence, would you also agree with that with James Forrest, that he probably knows that he's placed within the squad and he's just happy to contribute, probably much like James McCarthy at this point in time?
Yeah, could be. I mean, James Forrest, modern day legend, you know, scoring debut against Motherwell off the bench, you know, he's done just about everything at Celtic. One-man club. He's no desire to leave. I think he's happy just to be there, yeah, and contribute when he can. You know, he's reliable, he's got experience, we'll probably need that throughout the season. But
when you play a lot of games, he will feature at times for Celtic, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I can't see him really making the starting 11, but you don't know. He's proven a lot of people wrong in his career, James Forrest, you know. There's been a lot of times that Forrest's career has been over.
Patrick never fainted when you seen that, by the way.
Yes, it is. He always seems to to turn it on, James, and you know, in big games. So he's done it before, proved people wrong. But yeah, I don't see him being in the starting 11 and not in every match day squad. But he's been a great servant to the club. Happy to have him around. Must be a great experience for the boys coming in as well, telling them what Celtic's all about. You know, you need that in the dressing room, don't you? You do need people that know the club and know the standards that are demanded at Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have those guys in around the dressing room, guys like Forrest, Callum McGregor, and guys who I'm sure Anthony Nelson will become, or is becoming one of those men very quickly. Patrick, one man who does regularly start for Celtic, that Anthony in our comments doesn't believe should be starting for Celtic, is Daizen Maeda. I want to come to you in this comment here. He believes that he shouldn't be starting for Celtic, but going on his first 4 games, it's 3 assists for Daizen Maeda. I think he's integral to Postecoglou's system, and he's certainly a stick-on for me to start. What's your thoughts on this?
I wouldn't say he's a stick-on. He's definitely within those 3 players that I mentioned earlier, though. You know, it's between him, Jota and Abada. You know, you've seen Maeda start on the left, and then Jota's kind of out of position on the right. You know, Jota definitely prefers to play on the left. And then at the weekend there, you've seen Jota on the left again and Maeda on the right. And Maeda gets his assist anyway. You know, he helped open the scoring at Rugby Park, cutting it to Kyogo, done the exact same thing again.
2 assists at Rugby Park, yep.
Aye, but I'm talking about the opening goal, and then he done the same again against Hearts.
Same kind of idea from different sides, by the way, too, but I think shows that versatility that he's got it over Abada at this point in time too.
And you know, he's definitely the fastest player in the squad. I mean, it's ridiculous how fast he is, and the athleticism that he has. You know, I think Ange spoke to, I think it was Mark Schwarzer, the old Australian goalkeeper, played for Chelsea. I probably butchered that last name, but he said even he's surprised at how fast he is and how many times he can go and accelerate again, and he just keeps on going and keeps on running. You know, he's never seen a player like it. So even Ange is surprised by how good he is in that department. And you know, he's not got the most natural of touches. You know, he's not a typical number 9. You know, we've seen him played up top, you know, sort of February, March period, and he's not your typical striker, but he offers you something totally different. And I don't think there's a player in Scotland like Maeda. There's certainly no one in Scotland as fast as him. And you know, with him and Kyogo leading the line, I can't see sitting back in the Champions League. I think we're going to play our game and press from the front, and him and Kyogo are going to be absolutely integral to trying to close teams down, especially teams that are of a similar level to us. You know, those pot 3 teams that we're going to try and be beaten to that 3rd place spot. So no, I think Maeda, top player and definitely worthy of a starting place.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Lawrence, what's your take on this? Maeda last season, 22 appearances, 8 goals, 5 assists. Currently, this season, he's averaging an assist every 74 minutes. He plays for Celtic, and he seems a flavour with our commenters at this point in time. Michael Ross coming in the comments to say he believes that Maeda will prove his worth counter-attacking away in the Champions League. Dermot's came in here to say that Maeda runs them ragged, sets up goals. Ross also come in to say he really likes Abada, but he doesn't offer the same to the team as Maeda. JR in the comments is saying Europe won't have seen anything like Maeda. He'll get 1 player sent off minimum. And Egyptian King, another usual Tuesday contributor, saying Maeda offers more to that Celtic team that no one knows. I don't know why he gets so much stick. Lawrence, I don't know why he gets so much stick. What's your thoughts on this?
Listen, I'd say if Ange's got favourites, Maeda's definitely one of them. But you know, it's a score game, especially the front 6. There's no doubt he contributes. You know, it epitomises we don't stop. You know, he's like a Duracell bunny, isn't he? Just time after time closing down. I mean, that one he taking the ball off Halliday the weekend. He had no right to get them. But obviously Halliday wasn't aware enough before, you know, Maeda's taking the ball off him and we're up the park. Listen, players are going to get stick. Football's all about opinions, isn't it? Some people will prefer Abada. You know, Abada's numbers have got to be frightening. You know, another young player, but no, definitely lends to the team and to the squad, Maeda. It'll be interesting to see him in the Champions League. See how effective he is at closing down there. See if he catches anyone off guard or, with a start him every week. You know, I think it's going to be horses for courses, but I'd expect to see him get minutes every week.
Yeah, I'd expect to see him get minutes every week. I think he's an integral part of Ange Postecoglou's team. And Colin Watts came in here to say that he believes that Maeda's still get out a second gear, still get plenty more speed and running in him. Patrick, come to you and Daizen Maeda. After talking to Jota after the Aberdeen game, I'd asked about that interchangeability he's got with Daizen Maeda, which I think is something that's become really key to Ange Postecoglou. It's something we maybe scoffed at a wee bit under Neil Lennon, you know, when you're facing a wee bit of hard time, switch the wingers. But it's something Ange does in games regularly, and it certainly works for us. And I think, you know, those two players going at any fullback, it puts a lot of fear into them if you're playing against either or of them.
Yeah, you know, Jota's got his sort of tricks and his skills, and you know, obviously a bit of pace as well. Then Maeda, you know, those 5 to 10 yard sprints, he's beaten anyone in Scotland, I think. And you know, the fast interplay and all the passing exchanges and the triangles, and you know, the way that we play football, you stand a good chance of beating players anyway. If you throw in, you know, the fastest player in Scotland into that, you stand a really good chance of, you know, beating your man and getting a few seconds to get a really good cross in. And, you know, that is the way we play. And then you've got clinical guys like Kyle go in the box, and then you've got guys like O'Reilly running in. So, you know, it really does bode well. And, you know, Jota and Maeda, they're two guys that we've only really just signed. I mean, technically, we've both just signed them in the summer. So you'd expect to have them in the team for at least another year or two before we, you know, Jota's the one you're probably going to try and make money on. Maeda, I'm not too sure. You know, he could just follow Ange for the rest of his career. But I think it's two fantastic players to have. And then when you throw in Hakšabanović coming in, Abada on the bench, and then guys like we're talking about, Forrest, and maybe even Mikey Johnston, you know, you've got 3 guys for every position, and you've got 3 guys who, in Scotland, are good enough to beat, you know, 10 teams out of 11. So you're in a very comfortable position.
Yeah, moving on from that, Mikey Johnston is one of the names that does look as if he's going to go out on loan. I was listening to Peter Grant last week on Go Radio, who says, you know, he believes that the player still has a lot of potential there, but he does these game times at the point he's at to try and prove his worth in his run of games. You know, Ange Postecoglou was very complimentary of Mikey Johnston, I think, last week in one of his post-match, saying he's got a lot of potential. He's a good quality player, but he does need a run of game times. So again, that was another update, Lawrence, from Mark Hendry from Football Scotland, saying that Mikey Johnston is still considering his loan options as where to go. Believe there are a good few clubs hoping to bring him in. I think that would really benefit Mikey Johnston. What about you? I think you're still on mute right there. I'll take you off mute. Sorry about that.
So
Start again, Lawrence.
He burst onto the scene, didn't he? You know, first 2 seasons, 24 appearances each season. Was it 6 goals, somewhere thereabouts? And since then, it's really been hampered by injury. He's going to need to play. Number one, we need to know if he's going to be able to avoid injury and get kind of, you know, to that, even if it's 25 games a season, Mark, if he's going to be able to deliver that and deliver on his promise, because, you know, he's an exciting player. But with the amount of people in front of him, he's not going to get that run of games here. Maybe another player that maybe should be thinking about loaning over for a few bits is Stephen Welsh. What we're going to do with him, because he seems to be falling further down the pecking order. He's at the age that he needs game time to develop. I think, you know, he could be one for the future, but I don't think this season we're going to give him enough games. So he's maybe another one I'll look to get on loan and get another centre half in, but, you know, on a loan option. I know Big Chris is away, or it looks to be away, but I think he's been miles out of the picture for a while now. But yeah, I think Mikey needs to go out on loan and just look, you know, away from the glory lights at Celtic and try and get a decent season under his belt.
Yeah, he certainly needs that. We'll come to Chris Jullien, because I think that's one of the most major ones that we need to talk about in terms of the wages that he's probably been on. Lawrence, you've touched on him being out the picture for a long time at Celtic now. But Patrick, I know you were a big Mikey Johnston fan for a long time, up until, you know, probably his latest injury issues. I definitely think at this point in time he does need game time. And although I would be, you know, in favour of what Lawrence is saying about Stephen Welsh needing game time, I think for the UEFA Champions League squad, he's going to need to be one of these ones that we need to have in there, and I don't think Celtic will be making a centre half a priority. So I do think that Stephen Welsh will get some game time throughout the season. We definitely need cover in there. I know Lawrence is saying it's not a case of shipping Welsh out and not bringing in cover. He would like to see, us get cover in that position. But I think for certainly Mikey Johnston, who's a wee bit older than Stephen Welsh, at this point in time, we need to see him go out and have a full season. And then it gives Ange Postecoglou that option that he might be able to bring him back. We've seen guys like Ryan Christie, Christopher Ayer. There's a list of Celtic players who have went out, whether it's in Scotland or elsewhere, did well, came back and made their place in the Celtic starting 11. Johnston's never really had that run of games, and potentially as time goes on, getting Mikey Johnston out in a loan deal might, improve his chances of getting into that Celtic first team possibly next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of problems with Mikey Johnston. He's not quite as physical as maybe you'd want him to be. I think his decision making is quite poor. I think he's quite naturally gifted. I think he can be a brilliant footballer at times. It's just decision making isn't quite there. I think he's probably overthinking things. I mind he was 1-on-1 with the keeper against Real Betis, and he squares it instead of having a shot because he's just trying to do the right thing all the time, and he just needs to, be himself, I suppose. He got a little bit of a run this season. He played a few games in December, played a few games in February, and then I think it was that Scottish Cup game against Wraith. I think he'd done himself an injury, and that was him for the season. But I think we're all in agreement. The guy needs game time. He needs to play a full season. He got a few games towards the end of Brendan Rodgers' sort of stint as manager. When Lennon first came in, he was playing for him a wee bit, and then Elyounoussi comes in and he doesn't really get another game. So I think a loan could definitely do the world a good, because it's hard to see where he gets a regular game for Celtic without becoming, the reincarnation of Lionel Messi. And I think he needs to bulk up anyway. And in a totally new environment, I think, you never know how players can react to that. I think it'd be good for him.
No, not at all. And I think, Mikey Johnston's probably one of these guys that's a bit of a confidence player too and needs that run of games. Lawrence Brown Warriors came in the comments to say that he thinks that Ange believes he has the ability. Certainly his comments would suggest so, but probably needs a run of games to prove himself. He believes that Hibs would be a good fit for him in loan. Would you rather see a player like Mikey Johnston stay within Scotland and go to a team like Hibs? Or would you maybe rather see, I know that the Belgian league gets suggested as a possible destination for him. Would you maybe think it's a better idea to get him out into a European league?
I think it's the type of team. I think he needs to play in an attacking team that's going to get plenty of the ball. It'd be good if he stayed in Scotland and, he can hurt our rivals as well, because he's definitely got a goal on him. He's a dangerous player. But, yeah, it's about number one, getting minutes in the type of team. It's got to be an attacking team that's got plenty of the ball. Because that's what we want to see from Mikey. If he's going to do it and he does it there, he'd be coming back to a similar situation here. So whether it's Scotland or Belgium wouldn't really bother me. It's, if it's Scotland, you'd want somebody that's going to be going for top six, that's got an attacking brand of football. If it's Belgium, again, you want him going to a manager that believes in an attacking style of football, playing in a team that plays that attacking style and is challenging, that's got a bit of pressure on them. There's no point in going to, I think, staying in Scotland, going to, I don't know, Kilmarnock or St Mirren or Ross County. I don't think that.
Don't send him to Kelly. He's not that bad.
Yeah. It's like, was it Ewan Henderson we put to Ross County? That was a weird move, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a strange one. Yeah.
Yeah, so there'd be no point kind of doing something like that again. Yeah, so whether it's here or abroad, I think Mike has got to think where he's going to be happy and how it's going to benefit his football. Because moving abroad's a big step for anyone, isn't it? I don't know, maybe he's a homebird. If he could get Hibs, yeah, I think that'd be a brilliant fit for him. He might learn some tricks off McGeady, who knows?
Yeah, Ed McGeady, who's a lot more composite than his fellow Sky Sports pundits at the weekend. Patty, obviously Martin Boyle's going back there. From what I watched on Saturday, Hibs, apart from Martin Boyle, I think majority of the team didn't actually know as if they looked like what they were doing up until the opposition went down to 9 men. But that would be an interesting one. Hibs seem to have a flurry of wingers, and at this point in time, I've yet to see too much from Hibs that would suggest they maybe have a good season. So I don't know if it'd be another style of football, or playing in somewhere like Belgium or wherever, would maybe suit Mikey Johnston to go to. It'd be quite an interesting one to see, but he's certainly one who I think we need to see a run of games from. And I think Ange Postecoglou is still holding some hope that he can go out there, prove himself, and then bring him back. And again, it kind of goes back to that succession planning that I was talking about earlier. We say Hakšabanović, Celtic players will eventually be moved on at one point. We hope that isn't quickly at all, but it's a reality that it will happen. And players like this, if you can go out and prove yourself and break through properly, and we are seeing breakthrough because he's not really had that big run of games and a Celtic team that he's needed, then we'll just wait and see what happens with him, won't we? Right there, you're still on mute. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there you go. Me and Lawrence both done it. I think he's older now than what Tierney was when he left for Arsenal. So, every player's timeline is different. McGregor never made an appearance until he was 21. So every player's timeline is different. But he's sort of been in and around the squad for about 5 years now. He made his debut, and I think it was May 2017. So that was 5 years ago. I think he's naturally gifted. Obviously, Ange thinks there's something there. It's just a matter of, staying injury free and having the right attitude and applying yourself. And I don't think, I could be making this up, but I don't think Mikey's too keen on loan. I think he'd rather stay at Celtic, but he's not going to get the game time here, and he needs to just apply himself elsewhere, and then hopefully can challenge for a place next season. Because I think was it Standard Liège he was linked with, and Ronnie's a manager there now. Yeah. Well, Standard Liège are in Belgium anyway.
I don't know if that was just let's put two and two together, because former Celtic manager, current Celtic player looking for a loan deal. But yeah, listen, Standard Liège would probably be quite a good fit for him, to be honest. We know Ronnie Dyler's track record of developing players.
Well, just look at what he done with McGregor and Tierney. He's obviously got a decent record there. So. And it's obviously someone that Celtic trust as well. They might not trust him with a manager's job and getting results for the club, but developing a young player, I think Ronnie could do a good job there. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 9 days of the window.
Yeah, it's something like that. I know it's been extended now to the 1st of September. I think it was meant to be the 31st of July. Obviously, Celtic are going to play up in Dingwall next Wednesday. You wouldn't want Big Ange having to get his phone out to try and do any last minute business. Or telling Albion Yeti to bolt down the road to try and get a flight. I don't know. I think Inverness Airport's probably the closest place to Victoria Park. So we don't want any of that, but we've got that wee extra bit of time. So hopefully the guys that we want out the door are away by that time, and they've got their future sorted out. We'll come to the man in our ticker tape that L'Equipe has reported that Chris Jullien looks set, Lawrence, to make that move to Montpellier. It looks as if it might be a permanent deal at this point in time. We know that the Schalke deal, it looked as though that Celtic may have sent him in a loan and would have that trigger option to get a year off him. But it's possible he might be heading to Montpellier in a free. But I think that's important that Celtic get him as a big earner off the wage bill.
If it was in a free, and I've got maybe a year left in his contract, it's about £1 million in it. I think it's only about 19 grand a year. I thought we should have been trying to get him out on loan in last December, January, but we didn't, and we've not managed the asset particularly well, I don't think. 7 million signing, nothing back from him. All we're going to do is free up that year's liability on his wages. Great player, but he came in for us, for a goal scoring centre half, goal every 6 games. Unfortunately, that injury, we were winning that game as well against Dundee United, and you just want to keep a clean sheet. Injures himself, and the end of his Celtic career, isn't it? But you look at the centre halves we've got now. Best defence in the league last season. Jens looks more comfortable left hand side centre half than any of the others that I've seen play there. So I don't think he'll be missed. The Jullien of today, if it was the Jullien of 2.5 years ago, he'd definitely lend something to the team, but he's played so well football, hasn't he? If I was a Montpellier fan, a free transfer, it's probably a risk worth taking, isn't it? And Jullien, he's back back home to France, he'll be happy to get game time again. That's what he'll be looking for, isn't it? He's staging his career. He knows he needs to get fit, get game time, and prolong his career.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. We've only seen him feature once under Ange, a 15-minute cameo, I think, against Rafe Rovers. Supposedly, from everything we've read in French press, he's been fit since January, but he's obviously been completely out the picture. He did feature very briefly for Celtic in the pre-season this year. I think that was probably down to Carl Starfelt not being there, Moritz Yates not being in the door. It looks as if it was all over for him a long time ago. And Montpellier have been very, very thorough from these tests. From French reports this morning, he was doing 24 hours worth of tests, so that they're certainly, paying their due diligence with him. But I think, as Lawrence says, this is probably a good fit for him. He goes back to a league where he made his impact with Dion, Auxerre, and Toulouse, where he left it to come to Celtic. And it's a league he knows well, and he'll hope to go back there at 29, get game time, and maybe try and get his career back on track a bit.
Yeah, that's the hope. As Lawrence said, the Jullien of 2.5 years ago, you'd be gutted to let him go. You'd probably want about 10 million from him, but the Jullien of today, he's been out the team for a year and a half. You just don't know if these guys are the same player. He's probably not suited to Ange's system either. And I think it's just best for all parties if he moves on. We're never going to recoup the 7 million, but we can save ourselves £1 million on wages if we get him out the door just now. And, as I say, he doesn't fit the system. There's, you're talking about 4 guys ahead of him. When you think of the centre-backs that we've got at our disposal, he doesn't actually come into your thinking that much. You think of Welsh as 4th choice, and then there's Jullien, So best for everyone that he moves on. And, he was a favourite of mine in the sort of 9 months that he played. I thought he was a brilliant player. I thought he was our best centre-half. As Lawrence touched on, scored loads of goals, loads of important goals. The 2 memorable ones, Lazio and the League Cup final. So he goes with my best wishes anyway, and hopefully can get the last few years of his career back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to pick up on Frank's comments in here, Jullien is in loan. I'm just going by L'Équipe today on page 5. It made quite a big deal out of the transfer to Montpellier. They're even saying that if he does get the green light this week, it might feature for them at the weekend. But it did kind of make the suggestion that there'll be absolutely no transfer fee payable. So he might just end up going there, I think, on a permanent deal. I read that in 2 separate French outlets today. I don't know what the deal is actually going to look like, but I think either way, it would just be good to get the wages off the list. I don't think getting asked here if Celtic actually triggered the option. I think the option with Chris Jullien was actually going to get triggered when he got that move. So it just depends at this point in time. It may be the case that the clubs just aren't willing to take him, and Celtic want him shifted out the door. And I imagine, Lawrence, you said about 19 grand, he might be in upwards of that. It's 7 million quid coming in the door. So I think it's just important that he moves on for the benefit of himself. Again, at 29, he want to play football. It's not going to happen for him at Celtic at this point in time. It's unfortunate circumstances that's happened to him with, and it gives us some extra money to hopefully play with. Another one, Lawrence, and I'll come to you on this, is Albin Ayeti, who again, this update this morning said that once Hakšabanović joined this week, Celtic will turn their attention to shipping Albin Ayeti out the door, and they are prioritising an exit for Albin Ayeti to leave the club. He's basically working out at 550 grand a goal that he's scored, which I don't think is great value for money, but again, at 5 million quid that we paid for him, we're just going to need to, cut our losses here and let him go, probably, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, he also made his name at Ball, didn't really do anything at West Ham. A dubious transfer policy that time came in fairly late, didn't he? And yeah, it's not worked for him. I don't think he's the type of striker that would suit Ange's system. Albeit, last season done well away against Betis. He's not going to displace Kyogo or Giakoumakis. It's a lot of money to pay out on a third choice striker, especially one that doesn't really fit the system. Even with Ayeti going and Hakšabanović coming in, I'd maybe still like another striker in. Just kind of belts and braces, because at times last year we had both Kyogo and Giacomakis injured. Yeah, move a Yeti out, maybe look at another striker. I don't think, we're done yet. There's, what is it, 8 days left? So I don't think we're done. Hakšabanović comes in, we've been linked with a couple of players, but yeah, I'd like to see another striker come in as well.
Yeah, it's one that I think Ange might not be too fussed about Patrick, because I think he's got complete trust in Jacko and Kyogo. We know that Abada can't play through the middle. You spoke earlier about Maeda even being used as a number 9 at a point last season, although I don't think he was best suited to that position. If we do get Hakšabanović in, it looks as though our link was the boy from Hajduk Split, Yanni Antisov, is that how you say his name? From Hajduk Split. We know that Celtic have been paying attention to their games. What would you make of that? Do you think that's a position that Celtic really do need a player in? I know a lot of people spoken about getting a tough ball playing number 6 in.
I don't know. I think is he 22 or something? And I don't think he's actually in the Hajduk Split first team. So it's a really interesting one. I think at some point or another we've all felt like we need a sort of Wanyama type player in there. There's even talk of Wanyama himself coming back. I'm not sure how a player like that fits into Ange's system. Certainly in European games and bigger games against better opponents, I think you could definitely do with a player like that. But week to week, I'm not sure a player like that is much use. Especially when you've already got guys. You've got so many guys in that position. You've got James McCarthy. You've got Idiguchi. Callum McGregor sort of plays that role most weeks. He's not the physical sort of defensive type, but he plays in that position. And obviously you've got a bunch of youngsters. We've mentioned Scott Robertson in the past. So, and then Aaron Moy came in. He can play anywhere in the midfield. So, I think it's certainly one for the future. If there's a good player available for the right price, then definitely sign him. That's just how the model works. But I'm not sure we need a 22-year-old Hajduk Split bench warmer. But I could be proven wrong. You never know.
Yeah, Atanasov's only played I think once for North Macedonia too. So even though he came out as this North Macedonian international, he only played once for the national team. Obviously, they had a very successful Euros last season. But want to keep your eye on. Again, I think that there's within the press. Certainly that there isn't a lot of intel knowledge in what Celtic are doing until deals have progressed, further down the line, or they're getting any information off other clubs. Everything seems to be very much contained within the building. Lawrence, do you think, I know you've said there about a striker, I only expect after Hakšabanović comes in that Celtic will likely only sign one or if not any players. What would be your priority position if there is going to be a second signing coming in?
I think we're probably in a lot better situation. We're definitely in a lot better position than we were last season. We really needed bodies in the door. We've got competition for places now, and I think we've got the luxury where we can pick and choose. Like as Patrick alluded to, if there's a decent player there that's come available that will add something to the squad, we'll bring him in. And I don't think it matters too much in the position just now. It's about adding to the squad and the team. And just built a really cracking squad. But if you're to get somebody that's a steal for that defensive midfield position, you need to look at it and go, well, actually, let's bring him in because financially it makes sense. He adds to the squad. He's a young player. We can develop him. One player Patrick touched on, Scott Robertson. What are we going to do with him? He had 2 successful loan periods. It doesn't seem near the matchday squad. Is it time, to maybe move him on and say, well, look, we've got to be fair to him. He's been out on loan twice. He's not getting near that midfield position. Should we sell him and reinvest the money? Let him develop his career. I like him as a player, but he just doesn't seem to be near the squad now.
Yeah, he's not even featured in the back of a match day programme, so he's definitely completely out the picture. So again, for him, as we spoke earlier about Jullien, and even a Yeti too, for their own good, they need to move on and get out the door, and it will free up money. Patrick, in terms of back to what we were talking about earlier, with succession planning, is that something that Celtic should be thinking about this summer, even? Because, come January, after a World Cup, Champions League, group stages, if mental money's offered for players, would Celtic then be daft at that point to turn it down and maybe look towards, reinvesting into the squad? Maybe hopefully, we really hope going into either a Champions League, which might be a bit of a long stretch, or most definitely Europa League. And that's why it's important that the planning's set at this point in time now, where that if any player is to leave the club, you do have that backup there, and you're not in a position that Lawrence spoke about, where you're absolutely desperate to get bodies in, and you're just getting players in for the sake of it.
Yeah, I think, the position we're in just now, it's just, I think Ange actually spoke about this. It was, he was talking to Sky, I think it was the day of John Hughes' funeral. He says, the club are always in the market. They're never, that's it, we're done. If there's a good player becomes available for the right price, we're going to sign him. And I think that's what this Hajduk split boy's all about. It's not something that we need as a squad. It's more a case of, we think this player's quite promising, and for this price, we're willing to, take a risk, take a gamble. And I think that's what these signings are about, because there's not any particular part of the squad where you think, oh, well, we need work. But at the same time, if an asset becomes available for a price lower than what you value them at, you sign them. I've forgotten what I was saying there. Who are we talking about?
You were talking
Scott
about
Robertson.
assets. You were talking about assets there.
And then in January, if a team comes in with silly money, I think you just have to sell. If someone comes in with 25 million for Maeda, I think you just have to sell and just, bite the bullet and try your best to replace him, because, money like that, I don't think that will happen, to be fair. But, if money like that comes in, you can't really turn it down, because I think our biggest ever turnover was 105 million or something under Brendan Rodgers. So if someone comes in with 25% of that for one player, just got to take it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to think about, because, everything about progression with Celtic, and the failures of 10 in a row imploding on us and whatever, was because Lawrence was geared towards domestic dominance and success. Now you get into the Champions League, you've had that guaranteed pot of money. We've went out and we've spent a bit of it. But when did Celtic ever sign two players in one window for 6 million a piece each? Not very often. But we've seen that. But to progress and continue to do better and not enter these cycles where, you're out the Champions League for 5 years, you need to have plans in place that you can move forward. And that's the point that I think Celtic are back at just now, that we need to learn from the mistakes of the past and continue to move on. And if you say, a player comes up that you think, could be potential for a year's time or whatever, and you're getting them at a good price, now might be the time to get it, because we know the market will change in the next week.
Yeah, listen, if there's something that's value for money, grab it. If it's improving our squad. But go back to kind of 10 in a row season. That's when we changed our transfer approach. Then we didn't sell players when we promised them we'd sell them. We ended up with unhappy players. Players we lost money on. Was it 14 million in Cham? So that's the time we changed it. I think we need to face where we are. We've got a model that means we're a selling club. And that's the promise to a lot of players. Come here, put yourself in the shop window, get a big move. You've got the chance of Champions League football. You'll win trophies. We're right next door to England. A lot of players have ambitions to play there and get the crazy wages. So, yeah, what's changed this season is we bought players early, didn't we? We didn't wait to the last minute to get players in. So, yeah, Michael Nicholson and Ange and Tosh, who seem to be identifying players and doing deals quickly before the press really get a sniff of it. So, yeah, if this young boy at Hajduk split, if Ange thinks he's going to add something to the squad and he's good value, I've no doubt that Michael will back him in that. Especially, Jullien's out the door, that saves some money. If we can move on to Yeti, there's a few other French players. I think Scott Robertson, I like him as a player, but it just doesn't seem to be in Ange's plans. These are guys that could free up a few million for us to reinvest, and if we can uncover someone, what was it? Did we pay 900,000 for Wanyama? If we can spend something like that again and turn it at 12 million in a few seasons, ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. it's just about getting the right fit. And again, you know that Ange Postecoglou's spoken about this. We're not saying bring players in for the sake of it. He's spoken about getting the right players in, the right mentality of players, and that's what we want to do. Patty, I've got to come to you in this comment from JR, who had asked, why does Ange get backed, but he believes that Ronnie Daizen, Brendan Rodgers, or Neil Lennon didn't. Communication with the board problem. Do you think this is a new era that we're possibly seeing at Celtic, when we're starting to do things like grown-ups, in terms of, you've got a manager that pretty much has full control, I would say, at this point in time, which I think's proved to be beneficial for Celtic in the past 20 or so years. If you think about Martin O'Neill, Brendan in that first season, when a manager's got full control, it seems to work. You've also got a supportive CEO in Michael Nicholson, who seems to have a very good relationship with the manager, and you've brought Mark Lawwell in. Do you think that what Celtic have eventually learned from the mistakes of the past?
Well, I'm not sure how true that is, really, that comment, because I think Rodgers and Lennon were backed, in my opinion, anyway. And, this is the first time, in years that we've actually had a net spend, because last year, I think we sold 10 and brought in 12, and we actually made money because, I think Edward went for something like 17, Ayer went for 13, we get 2.5 for Christie, and then, there's a few smaller fees in there, but, that's £30 million. And then you get gate money, you get Europa League money. We made a profit. We broke our transfer record under Rodgers. We signed guys like Sinclair for £3 million from Aston Villa. I think in Cham was something like 4.5 from Man City. Obviously you've got Edward. So I think we spent money under Rodgers. Obviously with Lennon, 7 Jullien, 5 Ayeti, 5 Barkas. Just because they weren't that successful doesn't mean he wasn't backed. I think we all agreed at the time, October 2020, when the window shut and we brought Laxalt and all that. And, I think when we paid $2 million for Duffy for a 1-year loan. So we definitely spent the money. It just didn't really work out. What is it, a 20 million net spend this summer? So we've spent a lot more, but we know that with the Champions League money, we can afford to do that. And, the last time we qualified for the Champions League, we didn't have much of a domestic challenge. We do now. Every year's a title race. So in order to maintain that Champions League money, we need to spend, speculate to accumulate that sort of thing. You need to make sure that you're finishing first in the league to get that guaranteed £30 million. So he has been backed, but I think the last 2 managers have been backed as well, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Certainly, towards the tail end of that 1920 transfer window, that we did bring in a lot of players and we spent a lot of money, and as Lawrence rightly you said, we changed tack on it and it never worked. So it's nice that we've had that. We've been able to take our time, get our the players that we've identified as targets in quickly. And we've been able to kind of sit back, and it's almost felt weird that we've not had these European qualifiers to worry about, because you were straight bang in, and we might still yet sign someone else over. Say Hakšabanović, obviously he's not in confirmed. I've not seen him with the jersey, etc. But it does look as if it's going to go. Just to update you here from Mark Kendry on Football Scotland, been looking at my phone just in case there's any movement with Jullien. He's said that there is a few bites for Ayeti, but nothing concrete yet. So there is definitely interest in him, which is positive in terms of freeing up wages. Just to kind of look towards Tannadice on Sunday, Lawrence, we faced Dundee United as they are in a bit of a rut. You could say results have not been going well for Jack Ross at this point in time. Do you think we're facing him at a good time, or would you expect a tough old game as you usually do? And do you think maybe playing a team that's not expected to win the game, it might benefit Dundee United and they can just really go for it and raise their game to play the champions?
Listen, they need a result. I think another loss or two, Jack Ross might be heading for the door. It's early doors. It depends how much these players are bought in for him, but I think they'll be fighting for it. I think they're probably more dangerous at this point when they're desperate for a result than, if it was just normal, because they're not really expected to take anything from us, and a lot of players might just accept that. But now, the slide they're on, they really need the result now. And do I think they'll get it? No. And, I fully expect us to go up there and win by 2 or 3. But yeah, I expect him to have a go and make a fight of it. But time will tell. It's been a bit of a weird one for United. Initially a good result in Europe, then absolutely hammered. And they've just had bad results since. So yeah, it's about 3 points now. It's early doors. There's 34 games left. We're 2 points clear. We just need to keep beat Ross County first. I suppose it's the main one, isn't it? And then look to Tannadice. But Ross County is going to be a difficult game. You're going to want to stay in the cup, aren't you? Does it make a difference to us the way Ange has got us playing, whether United are on a good run or a bad run? Probably not. The squad's that much more superior to them. It's about getting the 3 points, avoiding injury. And I don't feel we've got our first gear yet. I'd maybe like them to give us a better chance of the game to kind of kickstart the team a bit before the Champions League.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair enough. We are looking at it. I mean, I think Patrick and Sunday, both of us were at the game. You could tell that Celtic really weren't out of first gear. I think at times until we get that goal, it was a bit sticky. The game never really got going. Hearts did well and just breaking up play. They didn't want Celtic to play at all. It's how they end up finishing the game with 9 men in the park due to constant fouls, which Robbie Nielsen thinks that fouls now translate into yellow cards, of course, and whatnot. So, yeah, I think as Lawrence says there, whether Dundee United were coming into this off the back of putting the Z Alkmaar out the Conference League qualifying and beating Hearts or whatever, I don't think it would make much difference. Celtic would still go there, play their game. That's the focus. But I think this week is going to be, it's actually 6 days, is going to be really, really interesting. And going to Tannadice, up to Dingwall in the League Cup, then at home to Rangers in the Derby game. And I think that will be the first kind of marker as to where Celtic's at this season. And then, of course, you play your first Champions League game after that.
Yeah, it's an incredible run of games. I think this will be our last midweek off until the international break. But while domestic football's going on, it's probably until February or March. The schedule's that hectic. We've got really big test after big test. I expect us to win the derby. We'll talk about that next Tuesday, to be fair. I expect us to win it. But, it will be a tough game. And then, the following Tuesday or Wednesday, you don't know if you're going to be home or away. You don't know if you're going to be playing, you could be playing Sporting Lisbon or Real Madrid. It's going to be a tough game either way. But how tough it is, we don't know yet. The expectation can be very different, but it's going to be. I think the Champions League takes us right up to the World Cup, I believe, and then a few Champions Leagues finished. We're off for a month, so it's going to be a hectic 8-9 weeks, and it'll probably define our season. But looking forward to it because we've not had a season like this in 5 years. Big game after big game, so it'll be a good test, but it'll be an interesting one.
It will be a good test, and it will definitely be an interesting one. Lawrence, do you think there'll be any kind of shake-up going into the game at Tannadice? Ange has been, fairly reliable with his team selection so far going into it. I think maybe the only one you might see coming out to start might be Rio Hatate for me. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Joe Hart's going to start. I think your back four picks itself. Callum starts. The two midfield positions. I think, Hatate will come in. And probably, O'Reilly. And up front, probably Jota, Maeda, Kyogo again. But, 5 out of that front 6 I expect to get changed. That's a proper squad view, the way Ange plays it. So you expect to see Giakoumakis. You expect to see Abada
in the game. Yeah, absolutely.
And who knows if Hakšabanović is fit. Well, if he's signed and fit, we might even get a glimpse of him.
Yeah, it'd been an interesting one. As I say, he was playing a wee bit for Djurgården towards the end of last season after the Russian clubs were sanctioned and had to send players out on loan. But I think he probably will be a wee while before he gets up to speed. But much like Aaron Moy, Lawrence, you might see him just kind of bedded in slowly, who again I thought played really well when he came on at the weekend. I think as every passing game goes by, Patty, he's looking a wee bit sharper, Aaron Moy, and I'm looking forward to possibly seeing him maybe starting Dingwall next Wednesday if I'm going to rotate the team just a wee bit. But do you expect, much like myself and Lawrence, hardly any, if any, changes to Ange's team going up to Tannadice on Sunday? We know how Bill Turnbull played up there, for instance, last year.
Yeah, you could see a change to the midfield. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually dropped O'Reilly for Hatate, because Turnbull's only just sort of come into the team. I don't know. I think, I agree with Lawrence. Goalkeeper, back four, stay the same. You could see Yakimakis, but I don't really see why. It's just, one of those ones you don't really know. The two players just as good as each other, really. Bring totally different things. Could see Yakimakis up at Dingwall. Might want to save Kyogo for the derby next Saturday. But the midfield three, I think, might change. But apart from that, I think the rest of the team will largely stay the same.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see what happens with transfer incomings, outgoings this week. We hope that we do see Hakšabanović and green and white hoops at some point this week. It looks as if the deal's all but done. Chris Jullien might be off ski by the time we're on next week, gentlemen. We might have actually seen him feature for his new club in France for Montpellier at the weekend. And you never know, Albin Ayeti also might be for the off ski. Thank you to everyone, as always, for joining us in the comments. Your chat's always very good. It's another big week for Celtic. I'm sure we'll be here every step of the way on the build up to the draw and after the draw. We'll be keeping you up to date before the game at Tannadice on Sunday, and we'll be looking forward to those Champions League clashes which are coming up. So once again, thank you for watching. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Patrick, Lawrence, thank you for joining me on